Hi, I'm Sophia, and this is Alida,
Hello.
and we are going to show you how to make plants and flowers for the Great Pollinator Ramble. We're really excited you are going to join us in either Catskill or Alana, or maybe both. And making the plants is a huge part of the performance, and also will attract some of the pollinators to you. So in your kit, you will find directions on how to do this, which we'll go over today, a length of wire, and 2 printouts, mirror images, so front and back. You will also need something to color your flowers with. We love using pencils, but you could probably use crayons or paint if you want to do that. Scissors, glue, Elmer's, or any white glue is the best for this project. Some tape. Masking tape works great, but you could also use probably some Scotch tape depending on what stick you use, and or duct tape or anything like that. And you can collect some sticks if you want to then put your plant on a sort of have it a little bit taller, so you can raise it in procession and raise it high for the pollinators. So the first thing you want to do is have a nice clean surface and look at your plant. So we're going to work on making the asters today. They are amazing plants that are wonderful for pollinators, and they come in a huge variety of colors. We did a little research. We wanted to do a sort of realistic aster. So we decided on a variety that has, what colors?
Purple petals and a yellow center.
Exactly. But if you really wanted to, you could create your own variety if you wanted to play with colors, or you could do a variety that had mixed colors. That's fine. So we're going to start coloring. We chose some nice purples and some nice yellows, and we're going to start coloring. So one thing you can do is use a couple of colors, like I did a blue underneath, and then I'm going over it with a little bit more purple. And sometimes that helps you get a really nice coloration. And I did the same with the yellow, a little harder to see. So now we have our 2 sides colored, and they look great. Good job, Alida. So we're gonna flip them over. Now, if you're working on a white background, you probably can see the print better. We're working on a brown background. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do a loose, like kind of around the outside outline. Like really loose. I'm giving some space, and that'll help me know where to glue. So I want to glue beyond the drawing. So now I have my wire and my drawings, and I know where I'm going to glue on the back. And I will eventually sandwich the wire between the drawings and glue them together. But it's easier to actually figure out the shape if you look on the outside. So I'm just going to choose one side, and one thing you want to do is leave about 3 inches at least on the bottom of the stem, so that you can then attach it to the stick. Alida, would you be so kind as to hold this for me? If you don't have a helper, that's okay, but it is nice. And then I'm going to just sort of start to form the wire. Now, I could kind of try to follow every stem. I don't have enough wire for that, and really that's not necessary because when I cut the aster out, I'm not going to cut each individual flower. I'm going to sort of cut it a little bit as a bouquet. So I'm going to sort of start following some of the stems, but then kind of try to, I don't know, I'm making a little bit of a decision and just figuring out what the shape altogether will be. And as I do this, I will have to go back and make sure everything is really flat, but try to make your life a little bit easier by keeping the wire as flat as you can. It is hard. It's going to want to bump around in different ways. And then, thank you, Alada. And then at the end, I just will maybe fold it in. You could fold it in on itself. So this is pretty good. Now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to, just by tweaking a little bit up, a little bit down, do my best, and it takes a lot of tweaking to lay this wire totally flat. That'll make it much easier when you do the gluing. And try to figure out where I need to bend some more. Okay, so now my wire is pretty flat. I'm going to flip my pieces of paper over. I'm going to lay the wire on one of the sheets. And I'm going to take my white glue and make sure I open my white glue. And just kind of apply the glue around the outside and then do some nice squiggles on the inside. And I probably don't need to do it on the other sheet. So then I'm going to take the sheet I put the glue on, make sure my wire is still in the right position where I want it, and as flat as it can be. And then I flip my sheets together, make sure they line up properly. Again, check the position of the wire. Make sure it's where I want it to be. And then I really press hard. Can you help me, Alida? Press nice and hard so that I get the glue in and around the wire.
While you're pressing, you try not to get the papers to kind of separate.
Yes, good point. And then I take a heavy book. In this case, we have The Wonders of Nature. And I'm going to put it right on top. And then I'm going to let it sit until it's completely dry. Hi, so we have let our asters dry. We had to leave them dry quite a long time because it's very humid today. But our next step is we're going to cut out the outside and then go in for a little more detail. So I'm just going to start that. And I like to kind of cut in and do a little sort of a rough cut. You will definitely have a fair amount of white left on your, on your plant. That's okay. There's no way around that. And depending on what your plant is, you may need to leave more or less. But what you really want to be careful about, especially if you've got a plant with like a long, thin stem, is to really leave a fair amount of white. Or if you've got a lone leaf sticking out, you don't want it to cut it so tight that it will be, that it could flop over. So this is a rough cut, and now Alida can go in and cut. We don't have to cut everything, but you might want to cut some of, you don't want to cut so close. You do want to cut like some of the petals. And then if you cut the outline a little bit closer, you can get a kind of a more interesting, you can get some more interesting detail. But you can leave as much white as you want. And I always recommend coming from the outside in, so you don't have to turn your scissors like that. So I think this is probably about finished. I try not to cut too close to the edge of the drawing so that on the other side, if the drawings aren't completely aligned, I'm not cutting away. But it's nice to give it a little bit of outline. What do you think, Alida?
I think jaggeds don't look as nice as like curved
Okay,
edges.
so that's a good point. I'll soften this up a bit, and then I think we're done with the cutting. That's a little softer. So now I have my drawings, and I do have this wire inside, so I can start making a little bit more shape if I want to. And where I have the wire, I can really bend. So it gives it a little bit of dimension. Gives it a nice sort of three-dimensional flowers in space feel. So our final step, if you would like to hold your plant high during the ramble, is you can collect a stick. This we found on the ground, but you could get something else. It could even be shorter. And we're going to sort of align the bottom of the stem with a stick and wrap the bit of wire around the stick, maybe going up a little bit. And then you take a piece of tape. Masking tape works really well for this, but it can be other tape, especially good if there's a bug on it. Might be a pollinator. And you want to cinch the tape really tight.
Really pull on the tape outward so it's really tight.
And then I'll add another piece at the bottom. And then this aster is ready for the Great Pollinator Ramble.
With a handle.